sense of what are we trying to do with this? Why are we doing this? And, and so that you've got a little background for the performance indicator. Reflection questions. We really liked having these because then you think about, what does this mean to me? What does this mean to my program? What does this mean reflecting on it and thinking about it? Self-evaluation, what we call the can-dos, because they're all I can do, blah, blah, blah. They're all in that sort of can-do format that provides a self-evaluation. It's important to say that we did not design the self-evaluation to be used as an assessment of teachers. Absolutely not. It's designed to be a self-evaluation for programs, a self-evaluation for teachers, self-evaluation for learners. So you can see, where am I now? And then we have vignettes so far for the instructor and program standards, where little stories, where people talk about what they do with technology and how they meet certain of the standards to really put a human face on it. And finally, a glossary, so that you know what we mean when we say something like Gen AI, generative AI. Okay, so that's the basic format. If we look at the instructor, there are 7 standards, and these are the short descriptions. So standard 1, about using devices and systems skillfully. Standard 2, tools and digital resources. Standard 3, we get into the pedagogy. Standard 4, digital literacy and digital citizenship for the teacher and the learners. Standard 5, using technology to help all learners thrive. So it's a little expansion on the pedagogy model. Standard 6, communicating with learners, supporting their progress. And standard 7 is the PD one, like what we're doing here, establishing and maintaining professional connections online. So these are the abouts, what we call the abouts, what they are about. And then if we take a deeper dive into one, standard 3, this is what the standards look like. They're sentences. So you can thoughtfully integrate technology in your teaching, informed by exemplary practice and relevant theory and research. So it's not just you read articles, you talk to people, so that people are part of this learning to integrate technology. And so if we dig a little deeper into a performance indicator related to AI, identify, adapt, and create effective prompts for Gen AI. So that we're going deeper into this one performance indicator. And here's an expansion. So why are we saying this? It's because prompts are commands. And here's an example of the prompt. And so that we're giving people an idea of what do we mean by this performance indicator. And then the things that instructors should do, the elements needed. So apps are emerging, but you need to know about prompts to do a more effective job of evaluating the prompt output and output from the apps. So this is the basic format here, that you see the about the standard itself, several performance indicators, typically 4 to 7 in each of the standards, and then an expansion, a reflection. And so this is a sample reflection. How well do you understand how to do this? What training and tools could help you and your colleagues? So things to think about as you want to meet that performance indicator. So it's just a deeper reflection on this. So that's the basic format of them. Now let's look at the AI parts of them. As I said before, they are infused. It's not a separate thing. It's part of pretty much all of the standards have some piece of AI in it because it's part of just about everything we do these days. It's in the instructor, the program, and the learner sets of standards. We talk about benefits and risks. It's like there are great things and there are issues. So we really want people to think about benefits and risks with AI. And then we really want it to be a basis for policy. Because as I said before, we want you to take this, tweak it, use whatever you want from this to create your own policy guidelines for instructors, programs, and learners, because it's really important to have something that everybody agrees on about using AI. So here are some of the themes in the instructor standards. What the QR code here gives you an extended text document that includes the full standard, the PI related to the AI standard, all of the information from the set of standards that are about the AI theme in the instructor standards. So it's something that if you want to really do a deep dive yourself, then you would open this up and look through it to see exactly what was Deborah talking about before in that webinar. This is an AI generated image. I use Pixabay routinely for finding free to use images, and now they're including AI generated images in Pixabay. So, they are everywhere. There are four main themes within the instructor standards related to AI. The first one, of course, is to be thoughtful and critical with AI tools. They can help, they can harm. You have to be paying attention. You want to be thoughtful and critical. You need to stay abreast of changes. I mean, AI is like a rolling river, and so you got to stay aware of it. Well, I'll show you the QR code again later, so don't worry about that. A very important theme related to AI is to be able to recognize and use effective prompts. And there are several reasons for this. And then finally, to model safe, legal, ethical, and equitable use. We want learners to see their teachers doing the right thing with AI, because we need to all be on the same page about how we use AI. So those are the four themes. Do you see some relevance to your situation in these themes? I hope so, that you'll see something that you might be able to use within these themes. Let's now look at the themes specifically. The first one is to be thoughtful and critical. This is in the standard on tools and resources. So the standards are written for technology in general. And this performance indicator, PI is performance indicator, talks about tools and resources. They enhance, but can also diminish learning effectiveness depending on how they're used. And when we look at the can do, the self-evaluation piece for AI, I'm aware that technology, including AI, may diminish learning effectiveness. We're starting to see more research about the pluses and minuses, and we're certainly seeing that AI is not always a plus in terms of learning. It depends on how it's used. So we have to be aware that this is not like so many educational innovations have been over the years, the best thing ever. It will, change teaching as we know it, and it will give teachers more time to do what's important in the classroom. More on that later. Okay, so this is being thoughtful and critical with the tools that you use. Another PI is to carefully consider and implement the AI tools. They can be helpful for designing and delivering instruction, and that they need to be used cautiously. Now, ChatGPT and the others come up with saying that, we really need to, be careful about what we do with Gen AI, and you can get things that are false. You can get misinformation. It can be saying things that are simply not true. You got to be cautious in what you get. And then you try things out to see how they could be used. You don't just sort of say, oh, I see that, I don't want any of this. It's here. It's going to stay. So you don't have to try everything, but you think about tools that might be useful and you try them out. And you think about, could they work for me? And maybe they will, maybe they won't, but you're wondering about this. can they work for me? Very importantly, you ask your learners, what are they using? You also ask your learners, do you think these are helpful or harmful? Because if learners are just thinking, oh, they're the best thing ever, they're not thinking about what they're doing. And so by really having a conversation with our learners, we can have them be more critical about their own use, but we have to start with saying, what are you doing? What are you using? And why? Does it help you? What's not working for you? So this is a pretty important thing to constantly involve the learners. And you'll see that again and again in the standards. We bring in the programs, we bring in the learners, everybody's part of this picture. And here's the reflection for that performance indicator. And so you think about this, is this me? How are you learning about Gen AI in the classroom? What training and policies are in place? And what we see now as also very, very important for learner use of AI, how can you adapt assignments so that they need learner input? I remember when I first saw ChatGPT, when it first hit the scene, and I saw what it could do, and I said, this will change our assignments. We will not be able to tell people to go do a web search on a famous person and write a report. Especially with adults and teens, and adults in particular, if you tell them, oh, go do something that will take you an hour and a half that you might not feel very satisfied with at the end, and turn it in, versus ask ChatGPT and in 3 seconds, it will give you a beautiful report. You know, adults are not dumb. You know, they are gonna say, I'm gonna make life easier for myself. If all we're doing is asking them to do what ChatGPT does really well, to take information from the web and turn it into a report. The learner input side of it is what's critical to making it theirs. If they aren't saying anything about themselves in this report, might as well let ChatGPT do it. So we as teachers really need to be adapting assignments so that they do need learner input to actually work. And that's also where, when learners look at them, they will see the benefits of doing it that way, because they'll see themselves in the writing. Okay, then theme 2 is to stay abreast of changes. So hard to do these days. You know, you pay attention to what's happening with technology use in teaching, including Gen AI, read articles, watch videos, going to webinars like this one, conference sessions, or hearing from others with expertise. There's plenty of information out there about better use of technology and better use of AI. We just need to keep adding it to our knowledge base so that we're more prepared for the changes. AI changes every day. I mean, generative AI, Gen AI changes every day. There's more stuff that it can do. There's more apps about it. So we don't need to know everything, but we need to be aware of what's going on and to be ready to use what might be useful for us. Okay, Amanda's asking about placing extra labor burdens on faculty. Wait until we get to the program standards. That's where we talk about that, because that's why we have program standards for administrators. The one that's really the heart of generative AI, identify, adapt, and create effective prompts. You know where to find information, or you use an app. Because we're not saying that everybody needs to be a prompt engineer. We're saying that you need to be able to recognize the good ones. You can critically adapt them, or adapt what you create, what an app creates, and that if you're going to create them yourself. These are some key components to an effective language response: the role, context, topic, format, learner proficiency level. So as a minimum, you're going to include those things before you ask it to do something for you. Or you use a prompt generating app, because more and more we're seeing those apps. I like the idea of teachers understanding how it works so that you can better evaluate what you get. So you're not just saying, okay, it's fine. You're looking at it carefully and saying, yeah, there are things that the app is giving me. I don't know why, and then you can go back and do a better job of it. And so the reflection here: how well do you understand it? What training and tools could help you and your colleagues? And this is where the program comes in. You aren't expected to go out there and learn on your own. You should be getting PD, and the program standards will talk about this. You should be getting PD. You should be getting the tools you need. It's not just, oh, I'm going to find it out all by myself, and maybe I'm going to tell my friends. It's too much of a burden to put on teachers. Sharing is great, but it shouldn't be up to teachers sharing with other teachers alone. You need training, you need tools. Very important, as we all know, with AI, safe, legal, and ethical use. There are many, many legal and ethical issues that have been coming up related to Gen AI. It's easy to use them inappropriately. It's easy to be unsafe. And I'll talk some more about those as we move on. But we really need to be aware of the legal and ethical issues so that we can help our learners and help ourselves as we're thinking about, how should I do this? So we have several can-dos with this one, several of the self-evaluation prompts, self-evaluation ideas. So they're constantly evolving. They are expanding and embedded into more apps, and will present new opportunities and risks. Suddenly, the search engines all have Gen AI. And I look at that and I say, if I want to find the menu for my restaurant, I don't need AI. And I don't want to use something that harms sustainability, that uses a huge amount of water, a huge amount of electricity to do something that I don't need. So we need to know where they are and learn how to get rid of them in places where we don't need them. But they are now coming up, Microsoft is saying, oh, it's everywhere. I don't want it everywhere. but we need to be aware that it's going to be everywhere, and it'll keep getting stuffed into more things that it doesn't need to be stuffed into. Then you pay attention to legal and ethical issues. Privacy. As soon as your learners upload their document to ChatGPT, it becomes the property of OpenAI. It's not theirs anymore. It's now part of the whole data set of OpenAI. Or if they do it to Gemini or to any of these others, it's no longer theirs. So we all need to know that we don't want to send anything personal in there. We don't want to talk about our medical history going out there. Oh my God, but we have to be aware. It's not our friend. It is a tool for the large tech companies to use to do a better job of gathering data from us. But, so real risks to privacy, false information and images. Who was it? The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, did not appear on Instagram because it was a fake Marco Rubio on Instagram. I mean, it can happen to anybody. And our learners need to know that you can't trust image, you can't trust video, you can't trust any of these things anymore. Seeing is not believing. And that's a really important thing for all of us to keep in mind. And of course, the things that we think about as teachers, you generate essays, reports, images. Did you draw that? No. You know, I have to admit, I cannot draw even line art that looks like what it's supposed to be. I use Pixabay and I use AI to do art for me, but I am very selective in what I do. And I always say when I'm using AI generated art. But for our learners, they just need to know that this is something that they have to be aware of. And again, we come back to this idea of policy, and there'll be more on policy shortly, because it is easy to generate an essay if we're just asking people to do things that they could do with a web search. So we need to really be thinking about this and pay attention to it. This is where we come in with clear guidelines. This is also where we should not have each teacher developing their own guidelines. This needs to be done at a broader level, at a school level, at an institutional level. And it can be flexible enough for individual teachers to use in different ways, but it can't be, well, in my class, we get to, you know, in this teacher's class, I get to use all the AI I want. In this teacher's class, I can't use it at all. It's got to make sense to our learners, you know, and how they use it and how they should not use it. This is one that we as teachers often overlook, that if we're telling our learners they need to cite when they use AI, we need to model it. You know, if we've generated a complete lesson plan in 10 seconds from ChatGPT, we need to be honest about it, that this is where it came from. It did not come from our little brains. It came from ChatGPT. If we don't model legal, ethical, and equitable use, why should our learners use it, you know, legally, equitably, and ethically? So we need to model this. And this is hard, because as teachers, we're used to just sort of saying, oh, I just, you know, I developed my material as I did it. You know, we don't explain it. But with AI, I think it's time for us to be more transparent about where we get stuff. And when you're planning, you know, you think about it. As you think, how do we use it safely? What are the copyright and privacy issues that may come up when I'm planning a topic or an assignment for my learners? And then here's another standard about this. This is where, again, you're giving learners more agency. Our fourth theme here, modeling safe use. We want to prepare learners to think about how it can help them and harm them in achieving their goals. Sure, you can get this essay done in 5 seconds, but are you going to be able to actually write a letter if you've always used AI to do everything for you? If you have to do something face-to-face, will you be able to do it? So again, you're looking at what are our learners' goals and how can they achieve their goals with or without AI? We come back to critical thinking. We're using this for critical thinking again. We're looking at available technology resources to support learners. So possibilities and risks, again, for assessment. And we see a lot of this in assessment, especially summative. I'd like us to take about 5 minutes now. I've created a Padlet for you. And you'll see the Padlet here for you to, I'll put it into the chat as well so that you can put some comments in the Padlet about these topics. Yep. So this is what the Padlet looks like. Oops, where is the Padlet? Oh, there. This is what the Padlet looks like. Start with the instructor themes for now, the things that I've talked about. How can you use these? How will they help you set policy? What would you do to them? How might you tweak them? What pieces would you take or not? What are the things that resonate with you that would be useful in creating policy? So let's take maybe 4 minutes for this one so that, because you'll have access to this afterwards as well. And if you do have further questions about it, feel free to post those here too, or in the chat. Yeah, how can we stay abreast of changes? That's an interesting one. And hopefully your institution will help you do that. It should not be individuals that have to, oh, I need to do all the research myself. I hope not. I really hope that there will be a policy and help for teachers to stay abreast of the important changes. I mean, maybe not every single app that has emerged, but what's important to know now? You know, what didn't we know before that we now know this? Things like how some learners get so depressed in their conversations with, the bots that they may consider self-harm. I mean, this is something we didn't think about before and we're thinking about now. So, there are important things, but also all sorts of new ways of using, the apps that would be really interesting to try. Let's take about 1 more minute on, of sharing here, and then we'll go back and talk about the program standards, the ones that are designed to really encourage administrators to do the right thing, to be part of the solution to having the best possible use of AI. Okay, you can come back to this later. You will come back to this later when we talk about the program themes. But for now, let's go on and talk about the program standards. As I said before, these were designed to have you broaden the discussion beyond instructors into how programs are using technology. And remember, these standards are technology-enhanced language learning standards generally. And I'm pulling out the AI components from those standards where the AI components are integrated. In case you're wondering, this is from Edinburgh. It's the school that may have been the inspiration for Hogwarts and the Harry Potter series. Just if I had to pick a cool program, it would be that one. So with the program, we've got 5 standards: collaboration, infrastructure, preparing instructors, preparing learners, and digital literacy for administrators and staff. Again, it's not just up to instructors to do the work on this. So the themes: be prepared for risks, be prepared for change, and have PD for instructors, managers, learners on competence, ethics, and safety. So let me now touch on how we look at those in the standards. That you have plans to manage risks. They're regularly updated about risks as well as benefits. This is at the program level. This isn't as one instructor does a little research and finds out more stuff. This is the program is committed to making sure that their instructors, learners, staff, and administrators can all do the right thing with it. What are the contingency plans? What kind of policies are in place or planned? You need policies. You can't do this one by one. This is one that I touched on before. You have to be prepared for the ways in which AI and generative AI is changing how education operates at all levels, being prepared for change. So this is the collaboration. You're collaboratively setting policies. So it's not imposed from above. It's not just instructor by instructor. It's everybody working together to set the policies, to keep them updated. So we have to work together on this one. What our learners do has to be part of what we do. And carefully considering the risks and benefits. Because if a learner does something nasty with AI to another learner, it affects the teacher of that learner, and it affects the program, the school, the institution that that learner is in. The risk is broader than one person. And this is why the program has to be responsible to think about this so they are prepared. So this is where we get the can do, the self-evaluation, that there are personnel on hand or on call who can advise about risks and benefits. And not just for teachers, but for administrators, staff, instructors, and learners. So there have to be people that you can reference or use to help when something comes up. The reflection here, how could your program use AI tools? And what policies are in place now regarding AI? And remember that AI is not just ChatGPT once we're at the administrative level. AI is data mining. AI is sending grades to learners potentially. AI is doing a lot of things at the administrative level. And so there may be more use of AI in the program level than what instructors are aware of. But that's why you have to be setting policies collaboratively so that everybody knows what's going on. Of course, your program will have expectations for instructors, but you're trained and reminded about ways to stay safe, especially with Gen AI. So it's not just AI, it's also spam and phishing and the other things that the other risks that can happen. But there has to be something that helps everybody be aware especially instructors, to be aware of staying safe. And the reflection, this is PD. I mean, it's PD for instructors. How does the program, it's not the instructor, how does the program ensure that instructors remain up to date? How are instructors and learners prepared to deal with issues and risks? So it's not just instructors who are responsible here. And then you've got technology resources and the reflection here, how easily can you access resources? How are you encouraged to participate in PD? Is it like, oh, it's good if you do it, go, good luck? Or do they actually offer some benefits? And this is where we have this performance indicator that programs recognize and, where possible, provide compensation to encourage ongoing technology expertise. So it encourages instructors. And so if you are an instructor that is a technology mentor or a technology leader, you definitely deserve compensation. You shouldn't be, performing all of this just on top of everything else that you're doing. Part of the reason to have these is to give instructors something to point to and say, look, this is what the standards say. Look, we should be doing this. So it gives instructors a little more oomph, perhaps, as you try to push for this. And then learners have access to the resources they need, including technology, tech support for AI. So we could do this as a group discussion for a couple of minutes. What I'd like us to do is to go into breakout rooms and add to the Padlet in small groups. So let me go back, and because we're getting to the end. So why don't we have you go back into, let's make, 2 breakout rooms, and you guys can.
Do you want me to do that? I can do the breakout room.
Okay. Let's have people go into 2 breakout rooms, and please do add to the Padlet. You can talk about the things you saw in the instructor themes. You can talk about the program themes. And remember, the program themes are designed to help you get your programs to do the right thing, because they aren't necessarily going to do this.
Oh, Deborah, if we do, well, I guess including me, If we don't include you and me, there would be three people in a room. If we have three breakout rooms, would that be better instead of having
No, I
six?
think two. I think it's better to have more people.
Okay, got it. All right, let's do that. Okay. Okay, I just opened the breakout room.
Some kind of like
Stuff in. Okay, well, thank you all for
We got
being part of this so far. Now we're getting toward the end. Let me share again. Okay.
one of the people in my group was asking me a question. Do you mind it? And we got cut off by the thing switching out. Would you mind if we spent just a minute on that? Or
Sure.
okay,
Go ahead.
was that
Okay.
you?
It was me. My name is Tony. I'm from Adams College. And then I had a question for, I guess, Amanda. And then it was just if your school currently has some kind of AI policy. My school right now does not, but I think like my boss is very much looking, into incorporating more AI into our school. And so I was wondering if you guys already had AI policy.
Not and
Was
like
it?
Jenny and Chris on the call and maybe other people that I'm missing, we're all at the same school at San Diego College of Continuing Education. That's part of the San Diego Community College District. Our department alone, just the ESL department, has 150 teachers, and that's one department in an entire school. So I know there's a lot of people thinking about AI. As far as I know, there is not a unified policy.
Got it. Okay.
But one thing that's really cool is that Jenny co-hosts I know this isn't like an AI policy, but Jenny is like the founder of an ESL AI working group that meets every month, and it's just AI ESL.
Is it invited?
Sorry, what's that?
Oh no, it's just like I would love to check that out if at all possible, but I don't. Anyway, we can move back to the main session. Sorry, guys.
Okay. I mean, there's so much here, so much to think about. Very few people have policy. I mean, that's where we are basically now. Some of the early adopter large colleges have shifted to using their own internal chat GPT, but internal ones so that it doesn't go out with student data, with student information. And they're the ones who have been more involved in creating policy, but that doesn't help the rest of us who are still using the free stuff. So, I mean, so it's something to be thinking about and seeing where you can go with it. What you have here, the QR code at the top is not updated yet. If you want to see the full set of the standards and the full description of the AI components, go to the one at the bottom, because that one will give you access to the current version of the standards with all of the AI components in them. And so I know one gives you a few, there's this one, that's the QR code that you'll have. This is the list of links that gives you what Jenny's showing is the links with the Padlet, and then the themes, the standards, and then all of the standards. So these are really good to look at and see, because that will let you see a lot more about what's going on with it. What I just posted in the chat is a list of some additional links. I was at a great session today that Nick Peachy did for Costa Rica on using AI chatbots for professional development as a self-help tool. It was really interesting, talking about having a conversation and using it conversationally to help us as teachers improve. So just a few things to be thinking about.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you're talking about conversation, do you mean between you and the chat or the chat GPT, or?
Yeah, it was, I mean, what he was showing was that it's Socratic questioning. So you set up a Socratic questioning session with where, you have a question and then it asks you questions to deepen your thinking. It actually did a surprisingly good job of that. I was really impressed. Let me see if I can bring up his presentation so that I'll put that in the chat. Yeah, this is Nick's presentation link. I mean, he does fabulous work, and so I often look at his stuff for more ideas about what to do with just about anything with technology. So he talks about using it for self-help in teaching. How does it improve your teaching? How do you do more reflective teaching, that sort of thing? And it actually worked pretty nicely for that. I was quite surprised. I did not expect to see that. Oh, any other questions? I realize we're running out of time here. I really appreciate this. Yeah, feel free to reject all the cookies, and because he's from the European Union, he's from UK, so you can reject all the cookies. You can reject all the cookies. So his stuff is just really good, and he's got some great ideas that he's presenting in his talk.
I wanted to check in. I kind of wrote something like this on the Padlet, but I'm really thrilled to hear that it sounded like it started as a basis in this has a basis in adult education,
Yeah.
because I'm working with students who are, even pre-beginning low, like they're not my class specifically, but a lot of students at our institution are have never even are pre-literate even in their first language and have very limited access to technology, limited digital literacy. Do you have would this be a space to ask about best practices or approaches for navigating those classrooms? Because I feel like there's a way that if I bring up AI with my students, they might be like, huh? Like what? Or I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that I think we need to think about is that more people are using it than we think are using it. And because you can get to stuff on your phone. And if you do a search for anything on your phone, you're probably going to get an AI coming up and telling you things. And so I think that's maybe where you start the conversation, is to say, have you experienced this? Have you seen the little, starry thing that comes up when you're doing Google? And, and I think that's really important to have a better sense of, what people are already using, because that's going to be why they'll be open to discussing it. Is that getting at what you were trying to ask?
I think
Right.
some of it, and I'm even thinking have you experienced this? My students haven't learned the present perfect. They don't know the word experience. So I guess, there's the language there that I'd have to be thinking about as well in this.
Yeah, but you can also show and say, have you seen this? Do you recognize this logo? Because the logo is there when you open Google. The Gemini logo is there. And have you seen this? And even if they don't understand the English, they'll see the picture. And they'll go, yeah, no, they know or they don't know what it is. So it's a way to start thinking about it. And I have no objection to using translation tools to get across really critical information, like stay safe. Don't upload your personal information. That's just so important.
Well, I do have to check if there's any other workshop after this, because this is a shared Zoom link. But if not, I think there are a lot of discussions, and 1 hour is not enough. We learned so much, and now we have so many questions, things we're thinking about. What are some things that was helpful for you? What do you think you're going to bring back to your school and your program and your business, or your students? Anybody want to share what you think? Because this is different. This is not about learning how to use AI, because that's about competence, right? That's something that we did the past year. We saw so many workshops, but now we have to think about policies, having something more uniform. I want to thank Dr. Deborah Healy for today's time, for giving her time, and helping us to think in this direction. I think this is very, very helpful and very critical at this time, because now more teachers are using AI. It's not like a year ago when people were still wondering, should I use AI or not? Now people are using it, but we need those policies in place. Would anybody like to share what they want to bring back? So Tammy wrote, this is Tammy. Let's see, Tammy's here, right? Like, I was burdening my admin by asking them to help me navigate responding to students. Now I feel like a program could use a policy. So this is really interesting to know, what do we want from our programs? I think we heard about compensation. Yeah, that would be helpful. Tony was mentioning like something like that would be helpful. Adam was saying he doesn't get compensated. Um, so that would be helpful. And then just being able to ask questions. Or maybe some of you, just like me, like I got interested in this and I realized, oh, like there's going to be more and more questions, and someone needs to lead these professional development workshops so that we can share ideas. Not because I know everything. I don't know everything. I just have a little bit more information because I'm just doing this. I'm running this TEL workshop, so I have to learn. So that's why I thought maybe I should talk and discuss this in my school, in my program. Yeah, so maybe some of you can go out and start leading those professional development, not because you know better, but because you're concerned for the future of your program or your school.
I mean, one of the risks that I think would be a wake-up call for administrators is if you had a student who took a picture of their classmate and put that classmate's head on a pornographic body and posted it online. And especially if they did it in your class. Not as part of your class, but they were sitting in your class, and they just got into that. You can do that. And if there has been no training, no guidance, no nothing, and this happens, the school can be in some serious damage control immediately. And I think it's that kind of risk, making them aware of this level of risk, that says we need to be able to use AI. Our students are using AI. How do we protect ourselves and the school if we have a bad actor? Because these things can happen. Middle school boys are what they are. They are what they are.
I'm reading Brian's chat.
Yeah, exactly. And you hope that the school will back you up if you actually do fail the student, because in some places it's like, oh, but we need their money, they need to stay enrolled, we need to keep them, and so we can't expel them, we can't give them a bad grade, sadly.
Deborah, I have a question. Have you met any person or any do you know of any school that has an AI policy, and I'm sure they're relatively new if they did, but do you know?
I haven't met anybody who says we now have a policy. The government of Canada actually has a national policy that relates to the people they give grants to. I don't have a link to that right with me, but it's something that would be good to take a look at, because it restricts the use of AI in teaching, I think by the people who get grants from them. So it's something to think about, how much AI you are able to use or not able to use. The people in Canada are thinking, the people I work with in Canada are thinking it's a little extreme, because there are good uses of AI, but it's another place to start in thinking about it.
So can I confirm they put restrictions on the teachers or the education institutions, but no, like
Yeah.
restrictions on tech companies who make the AI or anything like
So
that?
far, that's my understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's this whole, the love affair with big tech and money. Sadly, until we get away from that, where they're not going to do anything to help us. Every day you have another, the Grok problem that X had. Something else happens. But I think we need to be sort of the advocates for our learners and advocates for ourselves, and pushing our institutions to say, we are at risk. You are at risk. It's not that they won't learn as well. It's that, there are real risks to the institution if somebody misuses this. And so that might help be a wake-up call on it.
I don't know if anybody heard about this, but there's a lot of talk right now about the AFT also holding hands with the top three, like OpenAI, Microsoft, and they're going to be working with those companies. And they announced it maybe just a few days ago. So it's like a lot of professors are now in uproar about that right now. So yeah, that is a big concern.
Yeah, I mean, AFT could be the good guy in this. They could.
Hopefully. But a lot of the AFT members are unhappy.
Yeah, well, let's just do that. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think that, it's a hard place that we're in right now. And schools are as likely to ban it completely as to just ignore it. And neither of those is a good place to end. So a lot of work still to do. It sounds like Jennifer has a really good group that is working on this, which is great.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you again. Thank you everyone for coming in the middle of summer. I wasn't sure about how the attendance would be, but I appreciate everyone showing up on time, and I hope that everyone was able to get some knowledge and nuggets of wisdom from Deborah, who's working all around the world and seeing everything happening right now. In terms of technology. Yeah, so I love talking with Deborah and picking her brain about, what can we talk about? But I also want to say I'm looking for an assistant coordinator. So any of you, if you're interested or if you know of anybody, please refer them to me and let them get in contact with me so we could work on that quickly. All right.
Okay. Have a good rest of your afternoon, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hope to see you. We're going to see Deborah one more time in the semester, and we're going to talk about some other cool stuff. But for now, everyone, please take a look at some of the topics that Tell IG will be working on, and we will probably talk about agentic AI in the next few months, about what you need to know about agentic AI. We need to be ahead of the curve. Okay, bye, everybody.